Guys, super excited to share this new interview with all of you. Please share this with everybody you know. Everybody will be inspired by the story of my buddy Mike. He is now a quadriplegic. He dove into a pool at a family reunion and caused him to break his neck. Quadriplegic, but it's amazing the mindset that he is in right now. The daily pushes that he does, the daily things that he does to push himself to get to the next step, to get his feeling back. They gave him a 5% chance of even breathing on his own, and now he's getting feeling back in his entire body again. It's so amazing to listen to somebody like this talk to inspire all of you guys out there. I'm so excited that we finally got all of this finished, this interview. Please listen to this interview and pay attention to every word that Mike says. It is such an inspirational story, and I know all of you guys will enjoy it. All right, awesome. So we're recording here with Mike. How do you say your last name?
Corbett.
Corbett. It's not French Canadian where you say Corbet.
Nope.
Okay.
Nope.
All right, that's good. And so just talking real life. And, you know, I met Mike a few years ago, but I feel like I haven't met him before. I don't know why that is. But this is awesome right here. Like, I am truly inspired by this guy. And he's going to be an inspiration to all of you guys as well. Once I get this out there to all you guys, to the public. Thinking that, you know, we can use our mind for anything that we want to do. And for me, Mike is a true inspiration to me, and I know I'm an inspiration to a lot of people listening, but it's guys like Mike that inspire me, that keep me going and keep me grateful for what I have. And so Mike, I just want you to introduce yourself and just talk about kind of where you grew up, how you grew up, and any kind of certain things in your childhood that made you who you are today.
Yeah, sure. Grew up in Mississauga in Ontario with my brother and my mom. My dad and my mom had split when I was about 14 or 15, and grew up just being athletic and being outside a lot. My grandparents owned a farm up in Shelburne, which is about 2 hours east of here. So just being active outside, played a lot of baseball, played a lot of hockey when I was younger, skateboarding, biking. And yeah, kind of just grew into that as I got older and kind of kept those habits and hobbies. I've been playing hockey since I was about 4 or 5. Mountain biking, downhill mountain biking, snowboarding, all the action sports that you kind of come to love in Canada.
That's awesome. So we're pretty much the same people growing up. Being active, playing whatever we can,
Yeah.
really athletic, right? You could pretty much just pick anything up,
Yeah, kind of.
play it,
Yeah,
whatever. And so parents split when you're younger, and I've been blessed to have my parents still together, but I know there's plenty of people out there nowadays that are just like parents split and they kind of don't really know what to do. They're going back and forth from their parents, whatever. And I don't know if that really affected you. It might have, but I kind of want to know, we found out your favorite things growing up. Was there ever certain situations when you didn't feel comfortable going into, say, skateboarding or baseball or football? Was there one sport that you were more confident in as opposed to another?
Yeah, probably hockey. I was a smaller guy, still am. I'm only 5'9" now, but when you're going up, and it took me a while to kind of grow into actually having like an adult body, I guess you could say. Because
What is an adult body, by the way?
Well, I was a small guy growing up, for sure. I forget how. I was probably like 5'6" in high school, 5'7" in high school. I probably didn't get my full growth spurt till I was like graduating. So hockey was kind of intimidating for me. So I would just go outside and play hockey all the time as much as I could. Guy behind me played in the NHL actually, and he built like a professional rink outside in his backyard for
Wow.
his sons. So every Saturday we'd go out and play hockey. So I was playing with them, and they played like AAA, and I think at the time I was 12 or 13, and by the time I was 16 I was playing AAA hockey. Went into university, played a year university hockey. I was the smallest guy on the team for sure, but it was just continuing to develop the skills and practice all the time. that allowed me to be able to make a team when all the guys are like 6'2", 6'3".
So really, for you, it was kind of like your mindset was go outside, play all the time, and then I can get better and build my skills up to those guys' level, even though they were 6'2", 6'3", or 5'9". But what got you through was your mind, right?
Yeah, you just it was able just developing skill really and figuring out how you get around that, right? If you weren't size, you couldn't hit, or you couldn't hit in comparison to going up against guys who had like 40, 50 pounds on you. You just consistently practice and get better with skill, and that was kind of my way of being able to get better every year, which is nice.
That's awesome. So you have this positive mindset and this work ethic. Was there something specific that started this? Was it your dad that taught you this, or was it something you developed, or was it one day when you were just like, you know what, screw this, like I'm tired of being the small guy, I'm gonna just go and just work the big guys and show them that I actually can do something?
Yeah. When my dad left and my mom split and I was playing hockey, my mom kind of told me like she wasn't going to be able to afford me playing that high level hockey anymore, in terms of just like the financial restrictions kind of having like single parents. So I think I was 15 at the time, so I actually got a job at a local bike shop, and I lied about my age in the interview, and I said I was 16, and they figured out that I was 15. So when they brought me in for the second interview, they had said like, hey, listen, we went and kind of looked, we asked you for your social insurance number, and I didn't have a social insurance number yet. So they kind of did some background checking and whatever, and they figured out, they were like, well, you're not 16, you're 15. And I kind of told them what was up. I said, I wanted to continue to play hockey. My parents had split. My mom's not going to be able to afford it, so I kind of need a job, and I'll do anything to really kind of just make some extra money on the side. So I started working there when I was 15. They hired me. I was just taking out the trash, sweeping the floors. And by the time I went to university and I was 20 years old, I think, I had already been working there for 5 years. So I kind of just like went through the ranks and kind of just started off as literally just doing nothing, sweeping floors. Had no real responsibilities because it was a little bit of a, they just kind of wanted to keep me, on the down low, I guess. And then by the time I was 20 years old, I was like not a senior in terms of, an employee in the shop there, but I was able to do everything. And I've kept all those connections to this day. Like I know the owner, the GM, all the guys who have kind of left since and have different positions at different companies, either ski or snowboard or biking or whatever. And I've just been able to keep those guys in contact with me. And that's just something that kind of said if I could do that when I was younger, I was able to maybe do some of that when I was older. And like you said, just keep a positive mindset. It's just
that's kind of when it started. Was basically you wanted to keep playing hockey, and you weren't going to let the fact that your parents couldn't afford it stop you from doing what you love.
Yeah.
And you put yourself to work at a place that you weren't even supposed to be working at 15, but you were 16 supposedly.
Yeah.
So and that's cool, and they took that and they let you work there, and that's great that you have those connections still to today. That's beautiful. I mean, that's just like I've always been given everything. Me personally, like I said, I've never had to deal with a separation of a parents where I had to deal with money, worrying about money. Everything I asked for, I got. And so I've been blessed in that way. And that's why I like learning from guys like you that have that experience, that have to go out and push themselves to make that money to do what they want. And I did it to a certain extent. I pushed myself harder where I could just go to college. I had to take myself outside that comfort zone and just push myself and work and work and work and work. I never had to worry about money, so that was never a stress in my life. But I still always pushed myself positively, and I almost had this like I'm gonna prove you wrong, especially because growing up it was, you're not as good as that guy, you're not as good as that guy, and you're always gonna hear that no matter what you do, even if you're the best in the world. But you just almost have this like screw you type of mentality, and that's what you came up against when you're 5'9" and you're going up against these 6'2" guys. Like just because you're bigger than me doesn't mean that you're gonna school me on the rink.
Yeah,
so
sure.
That's beautiful. I really want to get into the good stuff now, and I personally don't know exactly what happened to you, but for everybody that's listening, Mike is actually a quadriplegic, correct?
Yeah.
So considered a quadriplegic, can't feel anything from your nipples down, your shoulders down?
No, I've got actually a lot of sensation back. I can probably feel down to the waist. Feel some sensitivity in my legs now, my feet. It's improved quite a bit since the initial accident.
And it's taken some work. And how long ago did this happen?
August 1st, 2016.
August 1st, 2016. And what exactly happened? I mean, I've heard this story, but I would love to hear it from you.
Yeah, so we were at Michelle's family's reunion in Halifax, August long weekend. Yeah, August long weekend. And I decided to go swimming at nighttime after having a couple, probably too many beverages. And
we've all done that.
Yeah. Ended up diving into the shallow end and broke my neck at the C4 or 5 vertebrae. So you got like 32 vertebrae in your back from your neck, skull, all the way down to your tailbone. So they're split into 3 different sections. You like cervical spine, your thoracic spine, and your lumbar. So at the C4 5 vertebrae, I had dove into the pool, not knowing it at the time, because I instantly sunk to the bottom of the pool, I think from shock. They pulled me out. Michelle's cousins pulled me out of the pool. I wasn't responsive or anything. I had swallowed a lot of water, and they got me onto the deck. Luckily, Michelle's cousin's girlfriend was in the military, and she had frequent like military medical training, so she administered CPR to me. My heart had stopped at that time, and I wasn't breathing. So as far, I don't really remember any of this. It's just kind of what Michelle's been telling me. So they pulled me out onto the deck and administered CPR, and I didn't have a heartbeat at that time. I guess I had woken up at some point during the CPR and told them I couldn't feel my legs, and then I kind of went back out again. At that time, the ambulance came, and I guess I had come to for a little bit, I think, and then, right, Michelle? Come to for a little bit, was conscious for a bit, and then went back out. So was in the ambulance at that time. They were taking me to the emergency, and they had to administer the what do they call it? No, they pretty much brought me back to life through electricity by pumping my heart.
Wow.
So I guess in the ambulance at that time they had told Michelle like not a lot of people kind of make it through not having any oxygen. I guess I went 5 or 6 minutes with no oxygen. So on the way to the hospital, got to the hospital. Obviously, again, I don't remember any of this. I'm just going by kind of what I was told in terms of like the timeline. And doctors came out. They told Michelle, listen, things don't look good. He's broken his neck. He's in a, I don't know if I was in a medically induced coma, but I was just out not saying anything. They had hooked me up to life support, ketamine, breathing, ventilator to keep me alive. Kind of came out, told Michelle, you're going to have to kind of call his family and prepare them because he's not going to make it through the night. Meanwhile, my whole family is at our family's cottage out in Shelburne there in Ontario. So Michelle kind of figures, okay, well, I guess she didn't really believe it at the time. So
pretty tough to believe something like that.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess it's just shock and everything that sets in at that point, right? You really don't think. It's kind of like a surreal process or situation. So she starts calling my brother. My brother's asleep. It's at this time, I think it was 1 or 2 in the morning. 1 in the morning. They're pretty much just keeping me alive at that point. I guess they had done an MRI, seen that my neck was broken. I wasn't conscious at all. They had just been pretty much keeping me there to contact my family and figure out what they were going to do. So they told Michelle, you got to get prepared, get his family prepared, that he's probably not going to make it through the night. They've got to come here, and they've got to fly in right away and figure out what's going on. So she tries to contact my brother. Brother's not answering, so she contacts my brother's girlfriend, lets her know what's going on. She calls my brother, is able to let him know what's going on. In the meantime, I guess they had said to Michelle, if you want to go and kind of say your last maybe goodbyes and whatever, you're welcome to.
Wow.
And so she, I guess, apparently goes into the room. She puts her hand on me. She says whatever she said. I don't really know. And I kind of wake up. And at that point, I remember waking up and seeing her in front of me. And I try and move around, trying to figure out what's going on. And the doctors are there and they say, well, stop moving, you've broken your neck. And from that process on, Michelle goes back out to the room, tells the doctor, he's conscious, he's awake, he's trying to talk to me. They had done like a, I don't know, was it tracheotomy then or?
They had you on ketamine, but they had to rip it out.
Yeah, they had like a ventilator pretty much down my throat, keeping my lungs, keeping air going to my brain and oxygen. So I couldn't talk, but I was trying to talk to her, trying to figure out what was going on. I had no idea that I had broken my neck. I had no idea really what was going on.
No brain damage at this point, even though oxygen had not been going.
Yeah, no brain damage, which they said. So after I came back and I was conscious, they said, okay, he's kind of, he survived to this point. However, we believe that he will have a substantial amount of brain damage over the time he went without oxygen. He'll probably, if he does live through potential surgery, that he'll be on a ventilator for the rest of his life, to have somebody breathe for him, because where it is, the C4 and 5 vertebrae are right below your diaphragm for breathing. Yes. Talking, chewing, everything, all those muscles that really control you be able to breathe on your own. And they said while he is awake and conscious, probably won't be able to eat by himself ever again, breathe by himself, be on a ventilator, all this. So Michelle's kind of taking it in stride, trying to, listen to what they have to say. So then they prep me, I guess, for surgery. So this is 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning or so.
Yeah. Oh, when they're prepping you?
Yeah.
Or when going into surgery till noon.
Yeah.
But they're basically taking you up on the ICU floor.
Yeah.
Until surgery.
This is all within 24 hours.
This was in 7 hours.
This is
7 hours.
Yeah. So I had fractured the C4-5 vertebrae, and what they were going to do is they were going to go in and surgically repair it by putting 2 screws through those 2 vertebrae and hardware to be able to restore functionality and fuse the bone together. Meanwhile, I guess they had said I had done so much damage to the spinal cord at that point that there was no real guarantee that I would get through the surgery. The surgery was like 7 hours long. They had to go through the front of my neck and they had to go through the back of my neck to not only move the bones out of the way that had put pressure on the spinal cord, but to be able to properly shift them back into alignment with the other vertebrae in the neck. So at that point they had told Michelle it's unlikely that there's a possibility I might not even make it through the surgery. And I was going to have surgery at noon, but my family still needed to be contacted. They needed to fly into Halifax right away. So at that point Michelle's letting everybody know. And my brother and my mom know, and at this point it's probably in the middle of the night, and she's kind of passing all that information along. Anyway, I go through surgery at around noon the next day. Come out. I obviously can't remember anything of what was going on. I woke up in the ICU probably, I don't know, the next day maybe? No?
No, so I guess the accident happened around 12:30 in the morning. You had surgery at 1 in the afternoon. Your surgery was done around 7, and you probably started to get up around 9, but you didn't know it.
I had no idea what was going on. I was so looped. They had me on a number of painkiller drugs and drugs just to keep me kind of lucid. And I saw my brother and my mom had arrived by that time, and I would see them and I would say, oh hey, what are you guys doing here? I had no idea what was going on. They would leave the bedside, come back, and I would say, oh hey mom, how are you? What are you doing here? So I was they had thought I had brain damage at that point because my memory was so short. Every time I would see somebody, I would totally not remember that I had seen them, and then I would see them again and be like, oh hey, every time. So it was frustrating for them. It was frustrating for Michelle, obviously. Yeah. So they had told me that I was lucky to live through the surgery. They said it was a miracle that I had no brain damage. I went through full cognitive testing at rehab. After I'd left Halifax, came back to Toronto, and they had still said there's no way that your brain was able to be, they use the term plastic, to be able to not have any type of cognitive dysfunction to it. So yeah, just kind of rehabbing now. Right after the surgery, no feeling whatsoever of where my body was in space. Couldn't close my eyes, couldn't tell you where my arms were, my legs, hips, or anything. Slowly, I've gotten function back of my abdominal muscles. My shoulders have slowly come back. Feeling has been restored, kind of sensitivity all the way down to like the hands, all the way down to the hips. Just going through, the necessary rehab to kind of get back and get functionality back. So that's kind of the story in a nutshell.
That's a amazing story. It's kind of I'm wondering, when you came back from, after being drugged up for so long, and I don't know how long you were in the hospital for, but when you actually came back to, say, reality after being all drugged up and stuff like that, and then you realized, I can't move any of my body. What was kind of the first thought, or kind of any thought process that went through your brain? I know you said, before we started this, was that you cried for, 2 months straight, which I think is completely normal considering, what happened. But what was the instantaneous kind of thought process that went through once you realized, like, dang, man, like, I'm quadriplegic? So, like, what was that instant thought? Maybe there wasn't one.
I was kind of just in disbelief, probably, and still in shock. It took a while to kind of figure out exactly, like, what had happened and what that meant for me in my life at that time, and what I was going to do. Like, obviously I thought of my family, I thought of Michelle, and what she had to go through and what she had been through. A lot of it is like, I was sorry for what I had put people through. For them to go through that, for that to happen at their family reunion, for Michelle's cousins to have to see that, on a weekend where everybody's supposed to be getting together and celebrate, the love of having a family and everything. So that was it for a little bit. I was kind of just, I more so thought about everybody else and how that was going to have an impact on their life. But in the back of my mind, I always kind of said to myself, people get through this, the body heals. It's going to take time, but obviously, like, in the interim, what and how I was going to deal with such an injury, I would just think about all the things I can't do, everything that I had kind of taken for granted in life, and all the small things that you don't even think about day to day, feeding yourself, getting yourself dressed, all that, like, how is I going to be able to cope with that? How is my life going to look at that point? And, and then I kind of gradually just started to remind myself that people can get better from this. And there's been stories, and at the very, very start, I had asked the surgeon flat out, am I going to be able to walk again? And he said, I'd probably give you about 5% chance. And then
5%.
5%, yeah. I was in the ICU at that point. I had like a trach in my throat, which is they pretty much just surgically put in a tube, because my lungs and my diaphragm wasn't strong enough to breathe on my own. I was getting infections. I had swallowed a lot of water, which I wasn't able to get up, so it was in my lungs. I had pneumonia about 6 times in the hospital in the first 2 weeks. So I spent about 5 days in the ICU. At that point, I started to get better in terms of just like being able to breathe. At that point, they took me out of the ICU. I think on day 11, I was able to get into like a normal hospital bed, which was like an acute care unit. So I was in a room with 4 other people with not similar injuries, but that needed one-on-one kind of care all day. And at that point, they took the trach out of my throat, and they couldn't really believe that I was able to kind of talk and breathe on my own at that point. So the surgeon revisited me, I think 11 days after the surgery, was around there, I think. And he was actually quite impressed with what had happened so far, and then I asked him again, and he said, what, I think I'd give you about a 30% chance of a full recovery, considering I've looked at your MRIs and your scans after the fact. And obviously that made me happy, but that's just a guess from a doctor or a surgeon. But yeah, I mean,
So what is it? What is it that keeps you going every day? I mean, I know you say that there's stories of this healing and stuff like that, but I know there's bad days and good days, and I know that there's that thought in the back of the head of just like, man, I feel so bad for Michelle. I feel so bad for my family. All sorts of stuff going through your mind. So what is it that actually keeps you going every day, and how do you remind yourself to kind of get back there?
Just you just have to kind of believe in getting better. Like, I'm a firm believer in terms of the thoughts and what you put out there into the universe are going to manifest into kind of like your reality. And it's happened before in my life where I've thought about something or I've visualized myself doing something or wanting something, and then it's come to me, whether it's 3, 6, 9, 12 months down the road. So if I'm going to sit there every day and I'm going to look at myself and be in a wheelchair and be sad and think about all the negativity that comes along with that and the things that I can't do and the things that other people are doing that I'm not, what is the point of living like that? Like, you know what I mean? It's not doing anything positive for yourself. And then Michelle has to take care of me, and how is that going to affect her? How is that fair? If I wake up and I'm in a bad mood, or I'm angry, or I'm blaming people, I'm resentful, I'm sad, but yeah, I have sad days for sure. I still cry once in a while when, Michelle and I will have a tough conversation, or, I think about things that I want to do with her or whatever, but then I put myself in her shoes. And does she want to live with somebody who's angry and upset and doesn't enjoy life? Or does she want to live with somebody who can get up every day and say, we'll get there, it's going to take time. But you just have to just remind yourself that you can do it. But if you think you can't, and you constantly are negative about what you might not be able to achieve, and sometimes those thoughts creep in, but I've learned to kind of shut the door on those. That's what you're going to bring into your life. But if you're positive and you're appreciative and you're happy, and you are enjoying life to the fullest it can be at that time, then you still have things to enjoy. Then you still have things to appreciate. So,
It's true inspiration. I mean, between your attitude and Michelle's attitude is just like unbelievable. It's amazing. The fact that you just said that, why is that even a way to live when you just are mad and angry? Why are we going to wake up and be that way? And that helps her, help you. You guys are helping each other in this whole thing. And I don't know if it's made your relationship stronger, which I think it might have. It's really inspiring. And I know you say that stuff that I put on social media is inspirational, but there's no level of inspiration that I can show that is like this, because the way that she talks about you and the way that you talk about her is amazing, considering one of the worst kind of situations that could really happen. And
yeah,
it's I really am at a loss for words. I mean, you've said so much good stuff, and I feel that people don't really understand that even just simply walking outside and being able to walk and being able to brush their own teeth and just being able to anything. I mean, feed yourself, anything like that, and you can't do those little things like that anymore. You once did, and you once enjoyed it, and like you said, you took it for granted. But it's mentally, I know mentally it was draining for a while, but you have found a way, and you found things, and you use my stuff, and you use other people's stuff, and I'm going to continue to give you stuff, and you're going to continue to give me inspiration and spread this story so other people can learn as well. I love it. And I mean, I'm kind of at a loss for words, because I take so much stuff for granted myself, and we were so kind of alike growing up. You grew up in Canada, I grew up in America, but we were outside, we played. I took all those things for granted, and I have a friend like you, which we haven't been close, but I feel like after this we're gonna be super close.
Yeah.
And
hope so.
Yeah, we can help each other, and I want to see you just inspire the world. It's gonna be awesome. And I kind of have one last question for you. What this might be a little tough. I think probably more for me than for you. You seem like you're more mentally stronger than I am with this, because it's amazing. But what is something you miss the most about being able to just walk outside and do what you want?
Probably just doing things with Michelle.
That's just sinking in right there. That just sums up everything that you're all about. And I admire you for letting me come and talk to you about this stuff, and kind of ask you direct questions like that one right there. And like I said, man, that's so inspiring that you guys go through it every day. And I watch it, and I watch your guys' happiness still growing. And I find it amazing that no matter what, you guys live like this happy, great life and take care of each other. It's wow.
Yeah, I mean, things could be a lot worse, you know. I read a story about a guy this week who had similar injury to me. Lives alone in Australia, and I was telling Michelle about it the other day. You know, and he gets up and he has somebody come get him up out of bed, get him ready, cook breakfast for him. They leave. 1 o'clock comes around, person comes back, cooks lunch for him, gets him ready, you know, for whatever he wants to do in the afternoon. Same thing for dinner. And then he's got to go to bed at 7 o'clock at night.
Wow.
And he spends it alone, you know. And then they come back in the morning at 7 o'clock and they get him up. And, you know, I read that story this week on a site, and that just puts into perspective. There are still things to be really grateful for, you know. I couldn't imagine doing this thing being alone every day. Like, that would just break somebody, you know. But the fact that I have Michelle here, and, you know, she's, you know, I still have somebody to spend time with, it's good.
And Michelle's your girlfriend of how long?
6 years?
Yeah.
6 years?
6 years.
Yeah.
Well, you guys are both amazing people, and I've been like blessed to get to know you guys. And I guess to kind of end this, I just want you to kind of give me one last thought of just any kind of maybe life lesson you learned from this, or any kind of thing that is like your basis belief that just keeps you pushing every day. Any last words?
Yeah, I just think that you know, the mind is a powerful thing, and how you know, you could potentially do anything if you put your mind to it. You know, it might take time, it might take a lot of discipline, whether you're meditating or you're just thinking positive or you're going through rehab, but I think anybody out there can kind of just do whatever they really, really want to do. If you really want it and you really, you know, desire to have it, and you put the hard work there, and, you know, don't let anybody kind of hold you back. You know, it's certainly something I've learned, you know, from having all these doctors tell me that nothing's going to be able to, you know, come back or work or function or whatever. And I think people just need to take every day for granted, like, or not for granted, pardon me, and just appreciate what you have in life, because it could be good there and then it could be gone, and I think just a lot of people live every day, whether they're driving in their car or walking down the street or having to go to work, like, just appreciate what you have, because things can change, and it's not always easy to be able to deal with that change. So be appreciative of what you have and who you have in your life, and just make sure that you're making a small change almost every day, regardless of what you're doing, to make yourself better or make the people around you better. So Michelle makes me better every day. She puts me in line. She keeps me straight. And if I didn't have her, I don't know where I'd be. So
it's beautiful. I just wanted to lastly kind of just say how awesome it was that all your friends and family came together and donated, I think it was something like $11,000 to you guys, and I know how much that probably had helped. Watching the video, I was bawling. I'm about to start crying on myself. I think it's beautiful, and like you said, it could be worse. The guy in Australia, I'm sure he doesn't have that many people giving him money like that. So, like you said, it could be worse, and appreciate what you have, because that moment in your life, just Christmas, was like, you could feel the energy through the video. It was just amazing. So, with that, thanks, Mike. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.
And I look forward to talking to you more in the future.
For sure.
And I look forward to you just getting better. And I know you're going to push yourself.
Keep you updated. She's
going to push you, and you're going to keep me updated.
Yeah.
We'll keep talking. I'll keep sending you cool stuff, and just keep pushing yourself and stay strong. And once again, I just want to thank you for letting me have this opportunity to kind of talk about where you're at.
Yeah, you're welcome, buddy.
Thanks.
It's a pleasure.